Hey folks, it's Jeff here. Just a quick reminder, if you're loving Disney Coast to Coast, there are a couple of easy ways that you can support the show. We'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to the show. This is a simple way to help other Disney fans find us. Also, go ahead and share your favorite episodes on social media and be sure to tag us. You can find all of our social media information at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen every week. Your support is very appreciated, and we love that you're enjoying our Disney geekiness. Now on with the show.
Get ready for your weekly dose of pixie dust with Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli, and in today's House of Mouse headlines, a big change is coming to the Disneyland Resort with the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and Disney tries to patch its relationship with the city of Anaheim. That and so much more, so let's get to it.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
2018 is headed toward the finish line, which means it'll be 2019 before we know it. And what 2019 means to a Disney fan is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. We've heard for a long time that Galaxy's Edge will have a cantina, but Disney has come out with an official press release describing the cantina this way. Visitors come to this notorious local watering hole to unwind, conduct shady business, and maybe even encounter a friend or a foe. Run by an intriguing alien proprietor, Orga Gara, the cantina adheres to a strict code of conduct that tries to keep its unruly patrons in check. But with a history of being a smuggler's safe haven and a popular stopping point for those seeking to avoid the authorities, you can bet that the cantina has a story or two to tell. Oga's Cantina is the kind of establishment that attracts some of the most interesting and disreputable characters in the galaxy. And you never know when a stormtrooper or a familiar face will show up. Patrons of this cantina come from across the galaxy to sample the famous concoctions created with exotic ingredients using otherworldly methods, served in unique vessels. With choices for kids and libations for adults, the cantina will make for a great stop. So, as you heard in Disney's description, for the first time ever, alcohol will be available at Disneyland Park for guests to enjoy. From every poll I've seen to chats on the Twitterverse, the reaction to this decision has been very split by Disney fans. Me personally, I think it only makes sense, and that's from a person who doesn't drink any alcohol. The argument is that Walt wanted Disneyland to be a dry park. I understand Walt's choice. Back in 1955, amusement parks had a very different feel to them. They were seedy places, often unfit for families. Walt had to prove that his park was different. I think it's been proven that you can have a theme park with alcohol, like Epcot, and it can still be a family-friendly environment. I don't picture people getting wasted at the cantina. Frankly, I'm sure the drinks will be so overpriced that most people wouldn't be able to afford to get multiple drinks anyway. The place where I would draw the line is if people could walk around the park with cups of beer. There's a big difference between having a cocktail at a bar and walking around a park with a neon cup of beer. I'm looking at you, DCA. My guess is that this will make a lot of money for Disney, and that we'll soon see alcohol available at Blue Bayou and beyond. Another new food and drink location will be opening even sooner at Disneyland Park. The Tropical Hideaway, themed around the Enchanted Tiki Room and featuring a view of the Jungle Cruise, has announced that it'll be opening before the end of this year. I'm actually looking really forward to this location. It looks like it'll fit in well with Adventureland and give us some views that we've never had before. Disney describes the location this way. After picking up a snack or two, choose a spot on the open-air dock, soak in the sights of the Jungle River waterfront, sit back, and listen to the musical sounds of the tropics, all while experiencing delicious new tastes. After the sun goes down, flickering torchlights will illuminate the area, transforming the Tropical Hideaway into an enchanting nighttime venue. As I mentioned last week, the new Disneyland Hotel project was put on hold due to complications between Disney and the city of Anaheim. Due to this fact, some changes needed to happen. The $267 million tax subsidy given to the Disneyland Resort by the city of Anaheim will now be ending upon completion of the proposed hotel construction. In addition, the Disneyland Resort could lose its protection from taxing park tickets. That means the guests may soon be paying for tax on top of the hefty park ticket and annual pass prices. These changes could majorly affect Disney guests and cast members for the years to come, but it seems like nothing would get done if some major changes weren't put into place. Over at Walt Disney World, the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival recently began. You can now eat your way around the world with over 30 destinations to choose from. Plan your trips to Epcot accordingly this time of year, as the park can get very crowded on weekends due to the festival. But also be sure to check the calendar to see what bands will be playing during the festival so that you can catch a free concert on the day of your visit. What almost feels like a rite of passage when visiting Walt Disney World with children is the character dining opportunities. It was recently announced that a new character dining will soon be available at Wilderness Lodge. This character dining will be themed around the Walt Disney Animation classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They're calling it Storybook Dining, and will be located at Artist Point in a forest-like setting. The characters you'll be meeting will include Snow White, Dopey, Grumpy, and an encounter with the Evil Queen. This sounds like a pretty cool one to me. I'll be curious to see whether or not it's successful, considering it's featuring older characters. Speaking of older characters, can we just take a moment to think about how hugely successful a character dining would be if it featured long-lost characters or perhaps a Disney afternoon-themed dining? I feel like that could fit well in Disney's Hollywood studios. Let's start a petition. Now for a new event at Walt Disney World at a place that, if I were being completely honest, I always forget exists at Walt Disney World. At the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex this weekend, they're throwing the Labor Day Fan Zone, which will feature a DJ, sports on big screen TVs, merchandise, vendors, character meet and greets, and more. This is included with the price of admission to ESPN Wide World of Sports, which is only $18.50 for adults and $13.50 for children. Over on Disney Channel, the latest Star Wars animated series called Star Wars Resistance will be premiering on Sunday, October 7th. I don't watch them myself, but the Star Wars animated series always tend to be high quality and quite successful. Here's a description of the first episode that was recently released. In the 1-hour premiere, The Recruit, Poe and BB-8 assign Kaz to the Colossus, where he meets a cast of colorful new aliens, droids, and creatures. While undercover to spy on the growing threat of the First Order, Kaz works as a mechanic and lives with Poe's old friend Yeager, a veteran pilot who operates a starship repair shop run by his crew, Tam, Niku, and a battered old astromech called Bucket. Speaking of Star Wars, it was announced that actor Dominic Monaghan will be reuniting with director J.J. Abrams. Dominic played the lovable character of Charlie on the hit ABC series Lost, which was created and produced by J.J. Abrams. Now J.J. Abrams is directing Star Wars Episode 9, and Dominic Monaghan will be playing a not-yet-announced role in that galaxy far, far away. One of the latest Marvel movies, unfortunately, does not have such good news. As I previously discussed on the show, Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn was fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 over some tweets he wrote approximately 10 years ago. Well, the response from the actors involved with the project as well as the public has been so extreme that Disney has now put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on hold indefinitely. Most people want to know when and if this movie will get made, but the bigger question I have is related to the Epcot Guardians attraction. From what I understand, video portions of the attraction were supposed to be shot during production of Volume 3. Does this mean that the Epcot attraction will be delayed as well? Also, if the studio feels it's so necessary to fire the unseen director of a film over some questionable tweets, what would they do if it came out that one of the actors that appears in an attraction had a similar past that surfaced? Could having so many IP attractions featuring well-known actors and personalities end up being a major problem for Disney in the future? It seems like everyone seems to have had something on social media in the past that someone will be offended by. It's an interesting trend we're seeing these days. And before we get going, I do want to remind you guys about some things coming up this week. On Monday, September 3rd, it is the last day to experience Pixar Fest at the Disneyland Resort. At Tuesday, September 4th, it's the last day to experience A Bug's Land before that closes forever. On Tuesday, September 4th as well, it's the release of the Hocus Pocus 25th Anniversary Blu-ray. On Friday, September 7th, we see Remember Dreams Come True come back to Disneyland. And on Friday, September 7th as well, it's the beginning of Halloween time at Disneyland. And of course, I've got to get to this week's Twitter poll. Now, on this past Wednesday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast, we had a discussion about the That's from Disneyland exhibit and auction that took place, where they had a ton of Disney collectibles. So I asked you guys on the Twitter poll, if you could easily buy any of the following items at auction, which would you choose? The options were a Dumbo ride vehicle, a Doom buggy, a People Mover ride vehicle, or a Skyway bucket. Now in last place was the Skyway Bucket with 7% of the votes, followed by a Doom Buggy with 24% of the votes, then a Dumbo Ride Vehicle with 32% of the votes, and the winner is the People Mover Ride Vehicle with 37% of the votes. But which one of these actually sold for the most money? Listen to this past Wednesday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast to find out. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of you listening because this past week I had the single most downloaded day ever for Disney Coast to Coast. Thank you so much for being such loyal listeners. It is so appreciated. Of course, guys, it's a new month, which means a new music playlist is out. Make sure you're signing up for that over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com by clicking on playlist. All of our social media can be found at DisneyCoastToCoast.com, and help other Disney fans find the show more easily by leaving a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. This episode of Disney Coast to Coast was produced by Philip Elke, who has supported the show through Patreon. If you'd like to become a DCTC producer or gain other rewards, more information can be found at patreon.com/DCTC. But for now, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePaoli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.